Today I'll be sharing a tutorial on how to weave a star and how to do it with kids. So I'll be showing you the process in my studio here, as well as clips of doing the process with my cousins. They came and made some stars with me, so you can see that process. This is an easy basket weaving introduction to get kids involved. It will be somewhat hands-on depending on the dexterity of the kids that you're working with. So know that they will probably need supervision and help throughout the process. But let's get started. You'll want to cut 20 stakes at 15 inches per star because we'll be weaving two sides and then putting them together. And you will need wood glue for this process. Check the description below for links to all the resources and tools that I'll be using in this process. And like this video to support me and my channel. I'm using 1/2 inch flat reed for this star, and I have them soaking here in my bin. To start out with, grab 10 of the stakes out of the water, and I have started by adding a mark in the center of each stake. And so I'll lay these out with the mark facing up parallel to each other with about a stake's width between, so about 1/2 inch between each stake. And you can pull in your stake weight to hold the stakes down so that they're held in place. And you're going to do 1/2 in this direction. So we'll do 5 stakes in this direction and then weave 5 stakes in the opposite direction. And I'm doing an over-under pattern. So it's under this, over the next one, under, over, under, and then weave opposite of that for the next stake. So we went under here, we're gonna go over this one and then under the next one. So we end up with a stake that's opposite. And then match up the center lines so that the lines here match up in the center of this stake, and then this center line matches up in the center of this center stake. And so we'll weave one more on this side, and then we'll switch the side of that the stake weight is on, like so. And then switch the stake weight and weave this side here. Okay, and now we want this to be smaller in the center. This will be the center of your star. So press these together, making sure that that middle line doesn't move around, but the pieces around it do. This middle mark where the middles match up, that is the middle of all the stakes. So you want that to be the point you work from. And I'm going to press these together and then square up my center by measuring out the center point, or measuring out this square to make sure that it's equal. So I have 4 inches there and 4 inches going in the other direction, and make adjustments if you need to make sure that that is 4 inches. And then move things around so that each of these boxes in between the stakes is about the same size. And we have the reed wet to start out with because you want it to be easier to work with. And now you can allow it to dry, so you won't need to get it wet again during the process. So now rotate your square gently so that nothing comes apart. And we're going to be using metal or plastic clamps for this process. Now grab 2 on the corners, so you have it set so that it's on a diamond shaped kind of at angles to you, so the point is facing you. And we're going to grab the top of these 2 stakes and bring them around and underneath and overlap the ends so that it creates this loop and the stakes are rounding underneath. And now we'll put a clamp so that these are at right angles to each other, so that the straight end here is matched up with the straight edge of this stake. And then I'll put a clamp right on top of that. And this is where we'll be using the glue in just a few minutes to glue these in place. And now the next 2, these next 2 right beside the corner pieces, these are gonna get folded under as well. And we're going to bring it just a bit shorter than this first set. So we'll bring those around and then clamp them in place like so. So this section is a little bit shorter than this section, or where the point ends is inside of this outside piece. So now rotate around and we'll do the same thing with these 2 pieces. Clamp the ends in place. and then the next two, clamp those overlapping right inside this first loop. Clamp and then rotate. And these center pieces, the piece that's left, just leave that for now. Okay, now everywhere that there is a clamp, we're going to take some wood glue and a paintbrush and apply wood glue to hold the pieces together. And you'll want quite a good amount of wood glue between the reed stakes, between the pieces of reed, to hold them in place once it's dry. So I'll dip my brush in here and add a nice dollop of glue here to the end, and then reclamp it in place. And if a little glue squirts out, you can wipe that away with your fingers. And you want to place the glue and the stakes back exactly where you initially clamped them, unless you need to make adjustments. Okay, and then once everything is glued, you'll do the same weaving process for the second side. Now when your two pieces are woven, we're going to flip one so that the woven side is facing down, and the other one rotates so that the pieces that didn't get woven fit into the pieces that are glued, folded and glued. So you're gonna tuck one into each corner, and then the pieces that are underneath lift up and come through like this. So the piece from below fits in, and then the piece on top fits through. Now, before we start to glue these new pieces that we just folded in by putting the two together, we're going to go around and trim these second layers. So we have the first leg and then the second leg. We're going to trim these down to create nice angles. So you can lift up the clamp so that you cut these right along themselves and end up with a nice straight edge there. So go around and do all of these that are facing up, and then we'll flip it over and do those that are facing down. You can also allow the star to completely dry before doing this process, and then clip these and then glue the two pieces, the two layers together. If you want to do all the gluing at the same time, then go through and carefully cut these pieces and then glue the two star halves together. Okay, and that's one side. Flip it over and do the other side. So these. Here, we'll lift this up, add some glue to the tip, and then layer this on top so that the end overlaps the point. And we'll trim down the ends so that they don't show in the end. So these are overlapped like so, and then we'll put this so that the point here is right on the edge here. So like that. Sandwich that together so that it all dries together. And then we'll do the same thing here, adding some glue to this piece underneath. And then layering that down and clamping it together so that it dries. And do this all the way around your star. Okay, when all your pieces are glued and attached, allow it to dry overnight to make sure that the glue adheres well, and then you can remove the clamps. And if you remove clamps and something didn't stick as well as it needed to and it's loose or it comes apart, just add glue, add the clamps back on, allow it to dry again to make sure everything's nice and attached. After your star has dried, you can start to remove all the clamps from the spots that you glued. And if anything comes loose or pops off because the glue didn't adhere as well as it needed to, then you can just add glue to that spot to hold it in place and then reclamp it. Now, once I remove all these clamps, the last thing to do to set this up is to trim off the corners here so that we have nice points on the ends of these legs of the star. So I'm just going to trim these down so that they match up with the edges of the stakes here to make nice corners. Okay, so that's all trimmed down, and now your star is ready to go. You can stain or seal it. Here's a video on how to do that. To display your star, I put a piece of twine or some jute string through one of these sections here at the top, and then pull it through and create a knot with the ends. You can use this hanger to hang it on a wall or from the ceiling, and you can do multiple to create a display. Either this could be a snowflake or a star, depending on how you want to use it. And you could do multiple to create a snowstorm or as a starry night in your decor. Check out my basket weaving courses. I have several basket weaving courses that go through the whole process of how to weave a basket. I have 3 different options as of the date of this video publishing, and you can check those out by checking the links in the description below. Thanks for joining me and my cousins to make a woven star. I hope you get a chance to try this out by yourself or with some fellow creators. Leave a comment below if you have any questions and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll see you next time. Happy weaving.